This is Amber Braezzeal with the Chronicle. I am meeting with Ila Debose today, and we are going to be discussing suicide prevention and what the UAFS campus has to help with that. Ila Debose works in the Math Science building where they provide the suicide prevention and other counseling. Mrs. Debose, excuse me, what kind of assistance and services do you offer students with suicidal thoughts?
We can offer crisis intervention. So if a student is feeling as though they may be in imminent danger of suicidal actions, because there's some difference between having the suicidal thoughts and having an intention and a plan.
Okay.
And so they can come into our offices and we can assess the severity and whether or not it's just a thought or they're feeling down and blue, feeling hopelessness and death wishes versus an actual suicide attempt. And then if it is where they're having an ideation and they are also having a plan with intent in place, we then process with them to eliminate any risk factors that would allow them to go through with an actual attempt. And so at times we may refer for hospitalization if the symptoms warrant that they need to be hospitalized. We have at times worked with housing so that if the student lives on campus, if they are having suicidal thoughts or feeling extremely depressed, that we could connect with housing for them to do welfare checks, or for the UAFS Police Department to do welfare checks to make sure that the student is okay as well.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And we can also refer them to the Powell Health Center to help with pharmacological interventions.
Wonderful. Have you noticed a lot of complaints of suicide?
I have, over this current school year, last semester, because this is my second semester here on the campus, and so we did have a few last semester, have not had any as of yet with the start of this new semester, and in each case there was no attempt, but there was severe depression that indicated that, and the student themselves indicated that they were feeling suicidal or at least wishing they weren't here. And that was enough for us to go into action to put them on what we call a crisis status, where as the counselor we would meet with them more often than we might normally meet with them. We each student is allowed 8 sessions per year. And so in the cases when they're suicidal, we will get authorization from Western Arkansas, which is the contractor that brings the services in. We get authorization to see them beyond that 8 because this is a special condition that they're needing extended services, and so we don't want to just push somebody out there. And so we will continue with them, and like I said, use all the resources that we can to keep them safe, keep them from harming themselves, and in instances where they need more than that, then we can send them somewhere more. So we've had a few, and I think they were all handled very well because there were no actual attempts, and so everyone was kept safe, and they were monitored, and they continued to work with the mental health professional that they were assigned to improve their mental state as well as the condition of their emotional state.
Fantastic. Is there has there been a common problem that has been complained of? Is there something in particular that's making students feel helpless or hopeless?
What seems to be one of the leading factors is relationships, breakups in relationships or conflicts in relationships. And then probably the second factor would be the academics, feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed out, feeling as though maybe they're not as accomplishing as much as they would like to. They're feeling very distracted. Many of the students that I have seen, they work, some of them full-time in addition to taking classes. Some folks have families, work, and take classes, and so it can be a huge stressor. And when you put in the relationship factor as well, because certainly whenever we're depressed, it impacts our relationships.
Absolutely.
And so we have strained relationships, and then we have the stress of all the other things that we're responsible for. It can cause a huge overload to the system that says, I don't want to do this anymore.
Absolutely.
And if it can create this chemical imbalance along with all these other environmental factors to say, maybe I don't need to be here, I need to give up.
Really?
And I think what has been fortunate is that, like I said, the students that we have come in, and I don't know that there's ever been any suicides completed on this campus, is that there is good staff, good friends, and knowledgeable students that even in those desperate moments, they are well enough to say, I need some help. And they say something to somebody so that they then get the proper help that they need. Whether it's through here or one of the agencies in town, they have been getting the help, and so that's great.
That is wonderful. Let me refer to my questions here. Do you have any coping mechanisms that you impart to students that they can use off of campus, or ways to handle or deal with the daily stressors, which I found it very interesting that you said that stress causes a very physiological reaction.
Exactly.
And that to me is very interesting. I don't think that people realize that stress will actually physically harm you.
It will. It definitely will. So I think it's important, particularly for students, that they are eating well. That's something that students don't tend to do because their schedules are either very scattered, very crammed, very rushed.
Yes.
They have an overload of things that they have to get done on top of a social life that they want to get done as well. And so I think it is very important that they manage their time in such a way that they get rest, that they eat well, that they do have social time, that it is not all academic, and that it is not all social, that there is a fair balance between the two, so that even as balanced as you can keep your life during this time, it is going to create an environment within your body and within your mind for things to stay a little bit more stable and more balanced. Absolutely. And when it starts to kind of feel like one thing is going one way or the other, talk to a friend. Doesn't mean that when it starts to go out of whack that you have to immediately go into professional help. It may be that you just need to talk to a friend. Talk to someone who's going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Because you may have the buddy or the girlfriend who says, oh, don't worry about it, come on, let's go party, or oh, don't worry about it,
Right.
You need to hear the one to say, no, you need to take care of this, or you need to back off of this, you need to do that, you need to pull back, and that they're going to be supportive of that as well.
Absolutely.
If you have a family member, talk to a family member. Call your mom, call your dad, talk to your husband if you're married, or your wife if you're married. Somehow or another, do not allow it to manifest inside of itself, but actually verbalize that I'm starting to feel a little stressed out here. I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed. I need to do something different.
Okay.
Once it gets to the point where exercise, diet, setting up your social time, and creating a balance is no longer working, you then may need to seek professional help. Not because necessarily that you're on the verge of a suicidal attempt or having suicidal ideations, but simply because the best intervention is early intervention.
Absolutely.
That is the best prevention, is the early intervention. And so if you can come in and say, okay, really can't get this under control, I need some help. That's when you come in and we work with you. What can you get rid of? What do you want things to be like? And we start the process of seeing what are these stresses in your life that need to be addressed differently, and individually work on some coping skills that's going to be specific to your particular situation.
Wonderful. Okay, and can you tell me, how would a person determine their loved ones that are best fit for the role of support? You mentioned, that students wouldn't want to talk to a destructive influence, that might tell them, well, we can just drink our sorrows away.
Exactly.
What would indicate to a student that someone is a good person to talk to, that someone is objective and is able to not give them perhaps what they want to hear, but what they need to hear?
Okay. I think that in the midst of trying to figure out the solution and taking the advice of someone and things don't get better, probably not the best advice.
Okay.
It's not what's going to work for you. And so sometimes it may be a trial and error thing that you go to a friend or a family member and they're saying, oh, whatever, we can drink it away, whatever. And you try it and you wake up the next morning. If you are still feeling the same thing you did before, that was not the answer.
Okay.
And so you need to go and find the right answer for yourself.
Oh, fantastic.
For yourself.
Okay. And is there anything additional that you can impart to students that maybe aren't even worried about suicide, or perhaps they are, but maybe need counseling in general, or are just stressed, or is there any information you would like to impart to them?
I would just say that this service is available to all of the students.
Okay.
It's part of the fees that you all pay every year. And so whether or not you choose to use it certainly is up to you, but it is available. And I would say that we have, in addition to myself, there are 2 other counselors that are here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The smallest bit of stress that may come your way, if you're feeling overwhelmed, and it's just, even if you just need to talk once or twice to get it off your chest, because maybe you can identify who's that person that's going to be supportive.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it has to be long term. Doesn't mean that you would need the 8 sessions. I would just simply encourage people that if you are struggling with something and you don't quite know the answer, and you have made attempts to talk to your professors, family members, friends, your RAs, whomever it is, and you still are feeling a little bit on the fence and not really sure, come into our offices, and like I said, it is going to be about solving whatever problem you bring to the table. And so if it's test anxiety, we'll help you get some tips to overcome the test anxiety. If it's struggling with managing a family life, with school life, we'll talk to you about that. If it's major depression, anxiety, and even if it's something from your past that still seems to trouble you today, we can work with you to overcome some of those things so that they don't continue to interfere with your daily functioning in your present.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like you guys provide a lot of services here to help the student population.
And we love it here. We do.
Absolutely. Oh, you've got a beautiful facility,
Oh,
and
thank
everybody is very, very welcoming, and I mean, just nice as can be. So thank you so much for
Thank
this
you.
interview, Ms. Debose.
Thank you.
I keep
Thank
wanting to
you.
call you doctor. And the Lions Chronicle thanks you too.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Find us at lionschronicle.uafs.edu. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter.